Welcome. We're about to dive into a really fascinating argument presented in our source material today. It's the idea that not all spiritual paths are built on the same foundation. We're going to explore a framework that looks at the worldview of Sanatan Dharma and the Abrahamic faiths not just as different beliefs, but as two completely different operating systems for reality.
So let's just start with the big question that our source material really wants us to grapple with. Are all these systems we call religion basically the same thing, just, with different packaging and different rituals? Or is there something much, much deeper going on?
And this is where we get to the core analogy of this whole analysis. The idea is that we're not just looking at different apps running on the same phone. We're talking about two totally different operating systems. Think iOS versus Android, but on a cosmic scale. The suggestion is that their foundational code, their very source code for how they see reality, is fundamentally different. So let's dig into what that actually means.
Okay, first up, let's unpack this core thesis. The source material makes a really sharp distinction. On one side, it defines what it calls a knowledge system, and it uses Sanatan Dharma as the example. On the other side, it defines a belief system, using the Abrahamic faiths as its model.
So this is like looking at the basic architecture, the blueprint for each system. The knowledge system on the left, it's all about direct experience. It's cyclical, like the seasons. It's based on patterns you can observe and verify yourself. Now, look at the belief system on the right. It's rooted in history, a specific event that happened in the past, and it's linear, moving towards a single final outcome. This also changes their whole vibe. One is descriptive, it just tells you how things work, while the other is prescriptive, telling you what you must do.
Well, that naturally leads to a huge question. How do we know what's true in the first place? This gets right to the heart of what philosophers call epistemology. But don't worry, it's a simple idea, really. It just asks, how do you know that what you know is actually real?
And here we see a major fork in the road. For the knowledge system, the ultimate test is logic and your own direct experience. The analogy is perfect. If the map you're holding, the scripture, tells you there's a river ahead but you're standing on dry land, well, you trust the terrain, right? The map has to match reality. But for the belief system, the text itself is the ultimate authority. The scripture is the final word, and your own reason is expected to align with it.
Now, to really drive this point home, our source material highlights this quote from the Yoga Vasishta, and it is absolutely radical. I mean, think about what it's saying. It's not just suggesting you question a priest or prophet. It's saying you should reject a statement from the creator of the entire universe if it defies your own logic.
The implication of a verse like that is just profound. It completely flips the usual hierarchy on its head. It suggests that truth isn't some secret owned by an authority figure. It's accessible to every single person through their own reason. It means logic is placed on a pedestal, even above God. Your own mind is the ultimate arbiter. And in this view, a child with a sound argument can be more correct than the creator.
Okay, so if individual reason is that important, what does that mean for divine guidance? This brings us to the next major point of contrast. Is spiritual wisdom given as counsel, as advice to be considered, or is it a commandment, an absolute order to be obeyed without question? Our source uses another really powerful analogy here, a scientific manual versus a legal code. The Sanatan model is presented like that scientific manual. It's descriptive. It just lays out the laws of cause and effect, karma. It says, if you do X, Y will happen. It advises you on the best course of action. The Abrahamic model, on the other hand, is compared to that legal code. It's prescriptive. It issues clear commandments from a divine authority, and there are very specific rewards and punishments attached.
And this verse is presented as the ultimate example of counsel over commandment. We're at the climax of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna has just spent 18 chapters giving Arjuna the deepest spiritual teachings you can imagine. And what is this final instruction? It's not obey me. It's this incredible invitation. Deliberate on this fully, and then do what you wish to do.
The weight of that is just immense. In this framework, the divine is your guide, your counselor, not a dictator. It makes your own intellect absolutely essential. You have to think it through. This is the ultimate affirmation of free will. And this is the crucial part, it means the responsibility for what happens next rests entirely on your shoulders. You can't just say, well, I was only following orders. All right, let's shift gears a bit. We've looked at how we know and how we act, but now we get to the really big question of what we are. What is the fundamental relationship between you, the universe, and God?
And right away, the analysis points to another massive divergence. The belief system framework is built on a very clear duality. There's a creator who is fundamentally separate from his creation. God is transcendent, external to the universe. But in the knowledge system framework, it's all about unity. The divine isn't just in everything, the divine is everything. The entire universe is seen as a single manifestation of the divine.
This verse from the Ramacharita just beautifully captures that sense of immanence. The author isn't just bowing to living things, but to the entire inanimate world, because he sees it all as being permeated by the divine. I mean, if you truly adopt that perspective, your relationship with every rock and river changes completely.
Now, the source is clear that the Sanatan framework isn't just one monolithic idea. It uses this amazing story of Hanuman's reply to Lord Rama to show its flexibility. Rama asks Hanuman, "Who are you?" And Hanuman gives this beautiful layered answer. He says, "From the perspective of my body, I am your servant." That's dualism. Then he says, "From the perspective of my soul, I am a part of you." And finally, from the perspective of the pure spirit, I am you. It allows for this whole spectrum of relationships, from humble servitude all the way to total oneness.
So, okay, after digging into all these deep philosophical differences, we have to ask the most important question. So what? What are the actual real-world consequences of all this? Why does making a distinction between these two operating systems actually matter to us today?
This summary table just brings it all together so clearly. You can see the contrast in every single area. Is the structure prescriptive, a set of commands, or is it descriptive, offering counsel? Is truth validated by the authority of a book or by your own experience and logic? Is that scripture the immutable, final word, or is it a guide that can eventually be left behind? And what's our role in all this? Are we a servant of God, or are we potentially divine ourselves?
Now, that idea of a dispensable scripture might sound a bit shocking, but the analysis points to this great metaphor from the Bhagavad Gita. It compares the holy books to a well. Now, a well is incredibly useful, especially when you're thirsty for truth. But what use is a small well to someone who has found themselves in the middle of a flood, an infinite, direct experience of truth? The point is, in this view, Scripture is the tool to get you to the destination, not the destination itself.
And here's where we see how this could all play out in society. The source argues there's a huge difference between tolerance and acceptance. It claims that the best a belief system can offer is tolerance, which it defines as a power dynamic. It's basically saying, I believe you're wrong, but I will permit you to exist. In contrast, the argument is that the knowledge system's logic leads to acceptance. The mindset becomes, since we are all expressions of the same divine reality, your path is inherently valid for you. It's a fundamental difference.
And all of this leaves us with a final, provocative thought. If we take this framework seriously, this idea of two distinct operating systems for reality, one based on revealed belief and the other on verifiable knowledge, how does that completely reframe our conversations about religion, science, and how we build our societies? The question to really reflect on is this: how might these foundational codes be shaping our personal lives and our shared world at this very moment?